He's a soccer analyst with ESPN and also part of SiriusXM's FC 157 channel. He is the legendary Tommy Smyth. You can follow him on Twitter at Tommy Smyth with a Y, ESPN. Tommy, it's been a while. Thanks so much for your time. How are you?
I'm fine, David. Thank you. How are you?
Well, we are good. We're having a little fun with it, but just so you know, we have labeled it Insurrection at Old Trafford. How far off are we?
You're not very far off at all. I mean, and it has very close connections to your part of the world because, of course, the Glazers are down there, and they're the people that own Manchester United.
Well, and obviously they are not well liked in Manchester. They were not that well liked in Tampa when they bought Matt. I mean, it's ironic because the Bucks fans for about a decade were ticked off at the Glazers, saying you're spending all your money on your soccer team and not on our football team. Now they don't care because they've got a title, but they have never really been liked. And this Super League brought the American owners to the forefront in the Premier League, did it not, Tommy?
Yeah, it certainly did, but they're getting a bum rap from me. I mean, they went out and they bought Paul Pogba. They spent 90 million on him. They bought Harry Maguire from Leicester. They spent 80 million pounds. I mean, this is colossal amount of money. I know what they're doing. I mean, they're lining their own pockets out of it, but that's what good business people do. I mean, you saw those people on Old Trafford yesterday. Now, the fans, they want to run the club. Can you imagine some of those clowns running the club? I mean, the Glazers got Manchester United on the stock market. The only way those guys will ever get on the stock market is if they run the scroll and sit on top of the television. That's as close as they'll ever get to the stock market.
All right. I guess you can have a surprise riot or surprise insurrection. You can storm the Bastille once, but my guess is if they try anything like this again, that this is not going to go over well a second time, Tommy. That, all jokes aside, this could get very serious, very violent, very ugly if there's an act two.
Yeah, it could. But I mean, the problem I have is that the indications were there that this was going to happen. I mean, a bunch of fans broke into Manchester United's training ground during the week and they confronted the players. Now, everybody knew that this demonstration was going to take place yesterday. So if you're a cop in Manchester or you're in charge of security at Old Trafford, you have to know, guys, that this is not going to be good. It's not going to be a good day no matter how you look at it. If they've already broken into your training ground, what's to try to stop them from breaking into Old Trafford itself? And that's exactly what they did. And I mean, you have to understand this. I've done a couple of games in Old Trafford. And even as somebody covering the game, if you step over the white line out onto the grass, the security guys are there. Off, sir, off. And if you come out here again, you could lose your press pass. Where were those guys yesterday? There wasn't a sign of them. I mean, somebody has to be responsible for what went on yesterday. And it could have been very bad. I mean, I'm sure you've seen yesterday on the television, I'm sure you've seen the guy throwing the tripod out. He reminded me of the guy with the big horns when they broke into the Capitol in Washington. He was the kind of the guy that was going to do everything. And he made muck of the tripod. I mean, this is what these guys are trying to do. They're trying to get attention. That's all it is.
Well, the other side of this too, though, Tommy, as I understand it, they want to end their league on a certain date, and they don't have a makeup date for this game. This game is important for both clubs, so this has thrown a wrench into how the Premier League's going to end their season, isn't it?
Oh, no question. I mean, and it is the most controversial act that has happened in the Premier League in a long time. And yes, okay, Manchester United fans are saying the Glazers ran us into debt. The Glazers are saying, hey, we run the club, we'll do whatever we want with it. It's our money. So, you have those two sides. Will they ever come together? And as you said, we had the Super League idea where 15 clubs were going to break, 16 were going to break away and form their own league eventually. So now you have this situation where, because in England, what happens is we have what they call the Champions League, which is the champions of Europe. That is a competition that there's a huge amount of money on the line. So in England, the top 4 clubs in the Premier League qualify for that Champions League. So at the moment, City are on top and Manchester United are second. But Liverpool, who won the championship last year, are in real trouble, and they have been trying to get themselves, they want to get into Europe for next year because they need to get into the top 4 because there's a bundle of money to be made in Europe. If you win the European Championship, you can make for your club 40 million Swiss francs. So they want to get into that top 4, and they're outside of it at the moment. So this was a huge game yesterday. I mean, Manchester United want to make sure they stay in the top 4, which it looks like they are, even if they even if they lost yesterday. But if Liverpool want to get into it, Liverpool need to win it. And now, when do you play the game? So the fans didn't help anybody. They didn't help themselves. They didn't help their club. They wouldn't let the bus out of the hotel. I mean, it's the crazy world we live in, guys.
Would they ever force Man U to forfeit this game if they can't make it up? Because that, to me, would be the best thing that could happen to Liverpool. They'd get the 3 points. But if they can't make it up, if you want to end this from happening again, forfeit the game.
Oh, yeah. I would say that there is probably a lot of people feeling that way. And, I mean, the reason they could make Manchester United forfeit it is because it was Manchester United's home ground. It was Manchester United's security that allowed these people to get into the ground. And because of that fact, it was their fault that the game wasn't played. So if you're looking to put a blame on somebody, you can squarely put it on the shoulders of Manchester United's club. No question about that, because they were lax in their duties.
Talking the insurrection at Old Trafford yesterday, along with the continued fallout of the Super League with Tommy Smyth, ESPN, also SiriusXM Soccer Channel, FC 157. Follow Tommy on Twitter at Tommy Smyth, ESPN. Well, Tommy, can they put the genie back in the bottle? Can they actually turn a staggering negative into some sort of small positive down the road business-wise in making European soccer stronger within the system that currently exists? Or are these 10, 12, 16 clubs just going to try this coup 2 years down the road?
Yeah, I imagine they're going to try it down the road because, in soccer throughout Europe, you have relegation and promotion, which means it's the 3 teams or the 2 teams at the bottom drop down into the next league. It's something that's completely foreign in America. You never heard of it in the States. It doesn't apply to any sport. So what they want to do is they want to have a Super League, which is run like the NFL, that the teams are in there, and no matter what happens, it doesn't matter how the season goes, they will play one another. You'll have Barcelona against Real Madrid and Manchester United against Liverpool on a constant basis, but there will never be anybody relegated. And at the end of each season, they will invite 3 clubs that they feel are entitled to come into it, or 5 clubs, depending on how they feel about it. So, yeah, that genie will eventually get out of the bottle. They have defeated it this time. But, I mean, the one thing that could come out of this is that the Manchester United Supporters Club must have written an open letter to Joel Glazer urging the club's owners to engage in fan consultation and to avoid something like this. I mean, in one sense it's great to see this happening, that they have invited the Glazers to talk, but on the other sense then you have a statement in the letter saying, hey, we don't want to see this happening every week. So, it's a kind of a little blackmail as well as being a kind of a straw, that we will talk. And, one of the guys that has been really pushing this has a strong connection in Florida too, Mr. Neville, Gary Neville, who used to play with Manchester United and had no problem accepting the Glazers' money from 2005 when they took over to 2011 when he retired. So, there's so many people involved in this thing, and they are so afraid that something will happen. I mean, if you weren't afraid of these guys, you wouldn't do anything like this. If they weren't scared of the Super League, you wouldn't be doing this. You'd say, go ahead, let them go ahead. Imagine somebody coming along and said to the NFL, oh, yeah, we're going to form a new league. The NFL is good. Go on, go ahead and form it. I mean, and that's why this whole thing, there's so many different stories to it, because they are so scared, because they know these guys have it in their head, and they know they have to know eventually something is going to happen. I'm not sure what it'll be, but something will happen.
And they've tried against the NFL, and they've been crushed like a great many times. Tommy, I saw some of your tweets as I was getting ready to have you on. You, with the two of us, have a fondness of horses. And I saw that you had the Oaks right. Like me, you missed on the Derby favorite. But I did see in your Twitter feed that you were at Belmont when Secretariat won. Now, I know we've done thousands of interviews on the show. I don't know if we've ever interviewed anyone that was at the race when Secretariat won the Belmont. Can you just give us a little history? One, why were you there? And two, just talk about the atmosphere that day, because it was a historic day in the sport.
Yeah, it's an incredible moment, one that I will never forget. I've been a horse player, I think, all my life. I think I was born a horse player. Maybe when I was 2 or 3, I was a horse player. But I remember betting horses way back when Ballymoss and Tullyar won derbies way back in the 50s. But I always go to Belmont. Belmont's my home track here. I live here in New York. Belmont's my home track. One of the finest racetracks in the world, anywhere. And I mean, if you want to test the champions, Belmont, 1.5 miles around. They call it Big Sandy because it's very hard to negotiate. But Secretariat, unbelievable. I don't know. They say there was 120,000 people there. I would say there was an awful lot more than that. And the anticipation, because Secretariat had won the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness and going for the Triple Crown. And there hadn't, you know, in the last lucky years, we've had a number of Triple Crown winners, but we hadn't had a Triple Crown winner that time. It seemed like for 100 years. So the anticipation was unbelievable. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it to my dying day. I'm up on the 2nd floor, right? And as they turn for home, I'm looking through a nice pair of glasses I have with me. I'm looking through the glasses and I see Secretariat and I'm saying, where's the rest of them? And I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking. Oh, there they are. They're 30 lengths behind. She actually won that day. I believe it was by 31 plus lengths. And it was unbelievable. The crowd, they danced, they sang, they were up in the air. In fact, there are a couple of $1 million of tickets that were never cashed that day. People who went to the track and bet $2 win on Secretariat and have kept the ticket as a souvenir. They're still, the New York Racing Association got all that money. It was unbelievable. A day in history, I think, of horse racing that nobody will ever forget.
Tommy, thanks for sharing that with us, and we thank you for your time and your insight beforehand about, well, what took place at Old Trafford yesterday and the aftermath of the Super League idea. Tommy, hopefully we can do this again sooner rather than later. Thanks for your time.
Dave and Mark, take care of yourself. Stay safe, my friends.
You as well, Tommy. Thank you so much.
Tommy Smyth, ESPN, also part of SiriusXM Soccer Channel, which is FC 157. You can follow Tommy on Twitter. Tommy Smyth, he spells Smith with a Y. Tommy Smyth, ESPN. Tommy Smyth, ESPN.